Alex was only 18, but life had already taught him more about hunger than most people could imagine. His family lived in a small, run-down house at the edge of town. The roof leaked when it rained, the floor was cracked, and the kitchen shelves were often empty. His mother worked at a laundry shop. His younger sister tried her best in school, and Alex carried the weight of responsibility like someone twice his age. That evening, the house was quiet. The small table in the center of the kitchen had only one plate on it. On that plate sat a sandwich, old bread with a little cheese. It wasn't much, but it was the only food Alex had left for himself. He looked at it for a long time, his stomach growling softly. He knew tomorrow would be another long day at his part-time job at the grocery store, and he would need strength. But this was all he had. Alex wrapped the sandwich in paper and put it in his backpack. He wanted to save it for later, maybe before he went to sleep. His mother had gone to bed early, too tired after washing clothes for hours. His sister had already eaten some rice and beans earlier, so Alex told himself he could wait. The streets outside were dark, lit only by a few broken lamps. The air smelled of dust and smoke, and every sound felt louder in the night. Alex walked slowly, holding his backpack close. His shoes were old and thin. He could feel the cold ground under his feet. As he turned a corner, he saw a shape on the sidewalk. At first, he thought it was just trash piled near the wall. But then, the shape moved. It was an old man, sitting with his back against the cold bricks, wrapped in nothing but torn clothes. His hair was gray, his beard long and messy, and his hands were trembling. Alex stopped. The old man looked up, and their eyes met. There was something in those eyes, a quiet desperation, the kind only hunger can carve into a person's soul. The man's lips moved, and he spoke with a weak voice. "Food, please." Alex froze. His heart started beating fast. He had only one sandwich, just one. If he gave it away, he would have nothing for himself. His stomach hurt, reminding him of how hungry he already was. For a moment, he thought about walking past, pretending he didn't hear. That's what most people would do, right? Everyone in town was struggling. No one had extra to share. But then he looked again at the man's hands. They were shaking, thin and bruised from the cold. Alex felt a strange heaviness in his chest. He remembered his own father who had died years ago. What if this man had once been like his father, strong, working, caring for a family, until life took everything away? Alex slowly opened his backpack. His fingers touched the sandwich wrapped in paper. His mind screamed, "You need this. You'll be hungry all night if you give it away." But another voice whispered inside him, "He needs it more." He pulled out the sandwich and knelt down in front of the man. "Here," Alex said quietly, holding it out. The old man's eyes widened in disbelief. His hand shook as he reached for the food.
"Are you sure?"
he asked, his voice breaking. Alex nodded. "It's yours. Eat it." The man took the sandwich like it was treasure. He held it close for a second, then took a small bite. Tears rolled down his wrinkled face as he chewed. Thank you, he whispered, his words trembling as much as his body. Alex watched him eat, feeling both hungry and strangely full at the same time. His stomach ached, but his heart felt lighter. He had nothing left for himself, yet he didn't regret it. The street was still empty, silent except for the sound of the man eating. Alex stood up slowly. "Take care of yourself," he said. The old man looked at him with watery eyes. "You don't know what this means to me," he murmured. His voice carried a weight that Alex couldn't understand fully at that moment. Alex gave him a small smile and turned to leave. He walked back home, his stomach empty but his soul heavy with thought. He wondered if he had done the right thing. He wondered if kindness really mattered in a world where everyone was just trying to survive. When he reached his house, the lights were off. He quietly went to his small room, lay on the thin mattress, and stared at the ceiling. His hunger kept him awake, but so did the memory of the old man's eyes. They were eyes that had known suffering, but in that moment they had also known hope. Alex whispered to himself, "It's okay. I'll manage." He didn't know that this simple act of giving away a sandwich would set in motion something far greater than he could imagine. He didn't know that while he lay awake in hunger, someone else, someone powerful, had seen what he did. And tomorrow, his life would change forever. The morning sun crept into Alex's small room, its weak light sliding through the cracks in the curtains. He hadn't slept much. Hunger had kept him awake, gnawing at his stomach. But it wasn't just the emptiness inside him that made him restless. It was the memory of the old man's trembling hands and grateful eyes. Alex sat up slowly, rubbing his tired face. His clothes were wrinkled, the same shirt and pants he had worn yesterday. He glanced at the empty shelf where food should have been. There was nothing. His stomach growled loudly, reminding him of the choice he made last night. He whispered to himself, "I'll be fine. I can handle this." His mother was already up, folding clothes she had washed late into the night. Her hands were rough red from soap and water. She looked at Alex with a tired smile. "You should eat something before work," she said softly, though they both knew there wasn't anything to eat. "I'll manage, Mom," Alex replied. He didn't want her to worry. After tying his old shoes, Alex grabbed his worn backpack and stepped outside. The air was cool, filled with the smell of fresh bread from a bakery down the street. The smell made his stomach twist in pain, but he pushed the thought away and walked faster. The grocery store where Alex worked wasn't far. It was a small place, with narrow aisles and shelves packed tight. Alex had worked there for almost a year, stacking boxes, cleaning floors, and carrying heavy bags for customers. The pay was little, but it helped keep the lights on at home. When he arrived, his friends Tom and Jared were already at the back, laughing while leaning against boxes of fruit. They were both his age, and though they worked the same job, they always found ways to tease Alex. "Hey," Tom said with a smirk, "I heard you gave your dinner to some beggar last night." Jared laughed. "Man, you're crazy. You barely have food for yourself, and you're feeding strangers?" Alex kept his eyes down, placing his bag in the corner. "He was hungry," he said quietly. "So are you," Jared pointed out, shaking his head. "You should have eaten it yourself. People out there don't care about you. You think he'll remember you tomorrow? Now he'll just beg from someone else." Tom leaned closer, his grin sharp. "Kindness doesn't pay, Alex. You'll learn that someday." Their words stung, but Alex stayed silent. Deep inside, though, he wondered if they were right. Was kindness really pointless in a world where survival came first? Still, something inside him refused to regret what he had done. As the day passed, Alex threw himself into work. He lifted heavy boxes, stacked cans, and swept the floor. His stomach growled louder with each passing hour, but he ignored it. Customers came and went, and the noise of the store filled the silence in his mind. At lunchtime, Tom and Jared sat in the corner eating sandwiches and chips. They offered none to Alex, though they made sure he noticed. "Still hungry?" Tom teased. "Maybe another beggar will share with you today." Alex didn't answer. He simply drank some water and went back to sweeping the floor. Later in the afternoon, a woman came in with her little daughter. She struggled with the bags she had bought, and Alex rushed to help. He carried them to her car, smiling politely even though he felt weak. The woman thanked him warmly, and the little girl gave him a shy smile. That small moment made Alex feel better. At least kindness didn't always go unnoticed. As the day ended, Alex dragged himself home. His body was tired, his stomach empty, but his mind was filled with questions. He thought about the old man again. Was he okay? Did he find shelter for the night? Would Alex ever see him again? When he reached home, his mother was sitting at the table with his sister fixing an old school bag. His sister looked up and said, "Alex, my teacher told us today that small kindness can change the world. She said even one person's good deed can spread hope." Alex froze, his heart pounding. It was almost as if her words were meant for him. He sat down slowly and forced a smile. "Your teacher is right," he whispered. That night, Alex lay awake again, his stomach rumbling. But there was something different this time. In the quiet darkness, he felt a strange sense of peace. He had nothing, yet he had given something. And maybe, just maybe, that meant he still had value. He didn't know that somewhere else, whispers about his kindness were already spreading. Someone important had seen his act, and they weren't going to forget it. The next day would bring a knock on the door that would shake his entire life. But for now, Alex closed his eyes, holding on to the memory of the old man's thankful smile, unaware of the storm of change coming his way. The morning started like any other. The sky was pale gray, the streets smelled of damp soil after a light drizzle, and Alex woke up to the same old emptiness in his stomach. He stretched on his thin mattress, trying to push away the hunger that clung to him like a shadow. His body was weak, but his mind was restless. He dressed quickly, slipping into his worn-out jeans and shirt. His shoes, patched twice already, still pinched his feet. Yet he didn't complain. Complaining wouldn't fill their plates. He checked on his mother, who was folding clothes for delivery, and his sister, who was packing her old books for school. Their life was small, hard, and quiet. Alex left for work, but something felt strange that day. As he walked through the market street, he noticed the way people looked at him. Some gave him curious glances. Others whispered behind his back. He wondered if it was about the old man. Had someone told them about the sandwich? He shook the thought away and hurried on. At the grocery store, the routine was the same, lifting boxes, arranging vegetables, and carrying heavy sacks. Tom and Jared were there too, smirking as usual. Still feeding beggars? Tom mocked. Maybe one day he'll repay you with gold. Jared added, laughing. Alex ignored them. He had learned that silence was better than arguing. His stomach growled, but he stayed focused on his work. Hours passed, and finally, when the sun dipped low, he returned home. The small house looked darker than usual. The old wooden door creaked as he pushed it open. Inside, his mother was sewing torn clothes by the dim light of a lamp, while his sister hummed softly, trying to finish her homework. Alex sat down, exhaustion heavy on his shoulders. His stomach twisted painfully, but he forced himself to smile at his family. One day it'll be better, he told them, though he wasn't sure how. Just as he leaned back, trying to relax for the first time that day, there was a sudden sharp knock on the door. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't the kind of knock neighbors used. It was firm, deliberate, and echoed through the small house. All three of them froze. Who could that be? His mother whispered, her hands trembling slightly. They rarely had visitors, and no one knocked like that. Alex stood up slowly, his heart beating faster. He walked toward the door, each step heavier than the last. Another knock came, louder this time. Whoever was outside wasn't planning to leave. He pulled the door open, and his breath caught. Standing there was a tall man in an expensive black suit. His shoes polished, his tie perfect, his hair neatly combed back. Behind him, parked on the street, was a sleek black car that seemed completely out of place in their poor neighborhood. Its windows were tinted, its body shining under the weak light of the street lamp. The stranger's eyes were sharp, and his face carried authority. Alex had never seen someone so out of reach, so different from the people in his world. "Are you Alex?" the man asked, his voice deep and steady. Alex hesitated, glancing back at his mother and sister. They were watching with wide eyes. He nodded slowly. "Yes, I'm Alex." The man gave a small smile, though his presence was overwhelming. "Good, my name is Mr. Collins." The name sounded familiar. Alex had heard it before, in passing conversations at the store, in whispers about the wealthy elite of the city. Mr. Collins wasn't just rich, he was one of the richest. A billionaire businessman who owned companies, buildings, and land. People called him untouchable, and now he was standing at Alex's door. Alex's throat went dry. "Can I help you?" he asked carefully. Mr. Collins studied him for a moment before speaking. "I believe you already did." The words confused Alex. He frowned slightly. "I don't understand." Mr. Collins glanced around the small house, then back at Alex. "Last night, on the street corner near the old bakery, an old man sitting alone. You gave him your food." Alex froze. His heart skipped. You saw that?" Mr. Collins nodded slowly. "I wasn't just watching. I was the old man." The world seemed to stop. Alex blinked, unable to process the words. His mother gasped softly from behind him, and his sister put her hand over her mouth. "You?" Alex whispered, his voice weak. "But how?" Mr. Collins stepped forward, his polished shoes clicking on the rough ground. "I disguise myself sometimes. I go out dressed as a beggar, to see if kindness still exists in this world. Most people pass me by. Some laugh, some curse. But you..." His eyes softened, though they still held power. "You gave me the only food you had." Without hesitation, Alex's stomach turned. He remembered the hunger, the struggle, the voice in his head that told him to keep the sandwich for himself. And yet he had given it away. He never expected anything in return. "I didn't do it for a reward," Alex said quietly, almost defensively. Mr. Collins smiled faintly. "That is exactly why you deserve one." The room behind Alex was silent. His mother's eyes were wide. His sister's pencil had fallen to the floor. None of them could believe what they were hearing. Mr. Collins continued, his tone calm but firm. I came here tonight because I want to thank you properly. Not with words, but with an opportunity. Tomorrow I will send someone to bring you to my office. I want to talk about your future. Alex's head spun. His future? His life had always been about survival, about scraping by day to day. No one had ever spoken of his future like it was something valuable. Why me? He asked, almost in disbelief. Because, Mr. Collins said, in a world where many turn away, you stopped. You gave. And that tells me more about your character than any test or paper ever could. Alex stood frozen, unsure if he was dreaming. His hands trembled at his sides, his mouth dry. Mr. Collins turned slightly, preparing to leave. Tomorrow morning, be ready. My driver will come for you. He stepped back toward the shining black car. The door opened smoothly and he slipped inside. A moment later, the engine hummed softly and the car rolled away, disappearing into the night. For a long moment, Alex stood at the door, staring into the darkness where the car had gone. His mother came up behind him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Alex," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. "What just happened?" He shook his head slowly. "I don't know, but I think everything is about to change." He closed the door gently, but his heart was pounding like thunder. He sat down at the table, staring at the cracked surface, lost in thought. The hunger was still there, biting at him, but for the first time in years, something stronger pushed it aside. Hope. That night, as he lay in bed, the knock on the door replayed in his mind over and over. It had been the sound of fate. And tomorrow, his world would never be the same again. The night after the mysterious visit felt endless. Alex lay on his thin mattress, staring at the ceiling. His heart was restless, pounding as if trying to remind him of the words he had heard. I wasn't just watching. I was the old man. Every sound of the house, his mother shifting in her sleep, his sister's faint breathing, only made his thoughts louder. He turned from side to side, too awake to rest, too uncertain to dream. Hunger twisted in his stomach, but for the first time he barely noticed it. Something else had filled the emptiness, an uneasy spark of hope. Morning finally came. The air smelled of wet grass, and the weak light of dawn pushed through the cracks in the curtains. Alex rose early, washed quickly, and put on his best clothes, which were still faded and patched. His mother brushed his collar with her tired hands, tears glistening in her eyes. "You don't know what today means, Alex?" she whispered. "It feels like something big is waiting for you." Alex nodded nervously. His sister hugged him tightly before leaving for school. He waited by the door, his heart racing. Then, right on time, a black car rolled up to the small street. Its surface shone like glass, reflecting the morning sun. The neighbors peeked out of their windows, whispering and pointing. Never before had such a car stopped in their poor neighborhood. A tall driver in a crisp suit stepped out and opened the back door. "Mr. Collins is waiting," he said politely. Alex swallowed hard, hugged his mother once more, and stepped into the car. The leather seats felt softer than anything he had ever touched. The faint scent of expensive cologne filled the air. For the first time in his life, Alex saw the city from behind tinted glass, watching streets and buildings blur past. The car finally stopped in front of a tall glass tower. It stretched into the sky, sparkling like it was built from light itself. People in suits moved in and out, carrying files, talking into phones, walking fast like every second was worth gold. Alex felt small, almost out of place. The driver guided him inside. The lobby was huge, with marble floors that reflected the bright lights. A giant fountain stood in the center, water flowing smoothly while workers and visitors moved around like ants. Everyone looked busy, important. Alex kept his eyes low, feeling the weight of stares on his worn clothes. "Alex," a firm voice called. He looked up. There stood Mr. Collins, no disguise this time. His suit was sharp, his shoes polished, his face calm but powerful. Around him, people greeted him with respect, bowing their heads, but he ignored them and walked straight to Alex. "Come with me," Mr. Collins said warmly, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. They took an elevator up, the numbers climbing higher and higher until Alex lost count. His ears popped slightly as the floor rose. When the doors opened, they stepped into a wide office with glass walls showing the entire city below. The room was decorated with expensive paintings, tall shelves of books, and a desk that looked more like a throne. "Sit," Mr. Collins said, pointing to a leather chair. Alex obeyed, his hand shaking slightly. Mr. Collins sat across from him, studying him with sharp eyes. For a moment, silence filled the room. Alex's heart pounded louder than ever. Finally, Mr. Collins spoke. "Do you know why you're here?" Alex shook his head. "Not really. I don't understand any of this." Mr. Collins leaned back, his fingers tapping the desk. "Most people see me as a businessman. Some call me greedy, others call me powerful. But I've spent years wondering if wealth has made people blind to kindness. So sometimes I put on old clothes and walk the streets as a beggar. Not for fun, not for pity, but to see how people treat someone they believe is worthless." Alex listened carefully, his eyes wide. Mr. Collins continued, his voice steady. "I've sat on cold streets asking for food. Do you know what I usually get? Insults, avoidance, laughter. People walk faster, afraid to even look at me. Some throw coins not out of kindness, but to get rid of me. But last night—" "You stopped?" Alex shifted uncomfortably. "It was just a sandwich." Mr. Collins leaned forward, his gaze piercing. "No, Alex, it wasn't just a sandwich. It was everything you had left. You were hungry too, yet you gave it away." Alex's throat tightened. He looked down at his hands, embarrassed. "I didn't think about it much, I just couldn't walk away." Mr. Collins nodded slowly. "And that's why you're here. That simple act told me more about you than any test or degree ever could. It told me you're someone with character, someone who doesn't only think of himself." Silence stretched between them. Alex felt his cheeks grow warm. He had never been praised like this before. All his life, people told him what he lacked, what he couldn't do, how poor he was. But now, a man with unimaginable wealth was telling him he mattered. "Alex," Mr. Collins said, his tone softer now, "I don't believe in giving charity without purpose. Money disappears. But opportunities, they build futures. That's why I'm offering you something. Not a gift. A chance." Alex looked up slowly. "A chance for what?" Mr. Collins smiled faintly. "To change your life." He explained that he wanted Alex to join his company, not as a worker pushing boxes, but as a trainee, someone he would personally mentor. He would cover Alex's education, his living expenses, and give him guidance. In return, Alex would need to work hard, learn, and prove that his kindness was not a single act but part of who he truly was. Alex's mind spun. This was too big, too sudden. A billionaire offering him a future? It sounded like something out of a dream. "Why me?" he whispered, almost in disbelief. Mr. Collins leaned closer, his eyes serious. "Because in a world full of people chasing wealth, I need people who still know the value of giving. You have something most rich men have lost, compassion. I can teach you business, money, power, but I cannot teach anyone how to have a kind heart. You already have that." Tears stung Alex's eyes. He quickly blinked them away, not wanting to cry in front of such a man. I don't know if I can do it," Alex admitted honestly. "I'm not educated like others. I don't have experience. I'm just me." Mr. Collins smiled. "That's enough. All I ask is that you try. The rest we'll build together." The weight of his words sank deep into Alex's heart. For the first time, the boy didn't feel invisible. He didn't feel like just another poor kid struggling to survive. He felt seen, valued. "Do you accept?" Mr. Collins asked, his voice steady, his hand stretched out across the desk. Alex hesitated for only a second before gripping it firmly. "Yes," he said, his voice trembling but filled with determination. "I accept." Mr. Collins's handshake was strong, reassuring. "Good. Tomorrow your training begins." As Alex left the tower later that day, the city looked different to him. The streets, the people, the noise, it all seemed brighter, filled with possibility. He walked home with steps lighter than ever, carrying no food, no money, but something far greater. Hope. That night, when he told his mother and sister, they listened in stunned silence. His mother wept softly, holding him close, while his sister beamed with pride. "You see?" his mother whispered through her tears. "One act of kindness brought light into our lives." Alex smiled faintly, though deep inside he knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. He would be tested, pushed, and challenged. But for once, he wasn't afraid, because he had been given something rare in his world of hunger and struggle. A revelation. Kindness had the power to change destiny. The next morning felt heavier than any day before. Alex woke before the sun had even risen, his nerves too restless to let him sleep. He dressed carefully in the cleanest clothes he owned, still faded and patched, but neat. His mother pressed his collar down with shaking hands while his younger sister looked at him with wide, proud eyes. "You'll do fine," his mother whispered, though Alex could hear the fear in her voice. She knew the world of billionaires was not built for people like them. When the black car arrived again, neighbors peeked from their doors and windows, whispering in surprise. Alex climbed inside, clutching his old backpack tightly as though it could anchor him. The car glided through the streets, carrying him away from the poor neighborhood he had always known, and toward something far beyond his imagination. The glass tower loomed again, taller than he remembered. The driver guided him inside, where men and women in sharp suits hurried past with files, phones, and purpose. Their shoes clicked against the marble floor, their eyes never meeting his. Alex felt small, like a shadow in a world of giants. At the top floor, Mr. Collins was waiting. He greeted Alex with a nod, but this time there was no softness in his eyes. "You're on time, good. From today you are not a guest. You are a trainee. If you want to change your life, you must earn it." Alex nodded quickly. "I'll do my best." "Your best," Mr. Collins said firmly, "must be more than enough. Come." He led Alex through a hallway into a large room filled with desks, computers, and workers typing furiously. Phones rang, printers hummed, voices overlapped as numbers and reports were exchanged. It felt like the heart of a living machine, and Alex was being thrown right into it. "Sit here," Mr. Collins said, pointing to a small desk near the corner. "Observe. Listen. And when you are given a task, do it without excuses." For the first few hours, Alex sat quietly, watching the workers. They moved with precision, flipping through files, answering calls, making quick decisions. He didn't understand most of what was happening. Terms like shares, investment, and quarterly growth sounded like another language. His palms grew sweaty. Then a man in his 30s walked over. His suit was sharp, his eyes cold. He glanced at Alex's worn shirt and frowned. "So you're the charity case," he muttered. Alex stiffened. "I'm here to learn," he said softly. The man smirked. "Learning won't be enough. You'll either keep up or you'll break. Let's see how long you last." He dropped a heavy stack of papers onto Alex's desk. "File these reports. Organize them by date and category. Don't make mistakes." Alex stared at the mountain of papers. His stomach twisted with nerves, but he nodded. "I'll do it." For hours he worked silently, sorting papers, reading dates, trying to understand the codes written on them. His eyes burned, his fingers cramped, but he pushed on. By evening his head ached, yet the pile had shrunk to nothing. The man returned, scanning the reports. He found no mistakes. His eyes flicked to Alex, surprised but still cold. "Not bad. For your first day." That night Alex returned home exhausted, his body heavy but his heart strangely alive. He told his mother and sister about the papers, about the workers, about how different the world inside the tower was. His sister listened with wide eyes as if hearing a story from another planet. His mother simply smiled and said, "I told you, you'll do fine." But the test was only beginning. The next week was harder. Alex was given more tasks, carrying files between departments, writing notes during meetings, organizing schedules. Some workers treated him with kindness, but most ignored him and a few mocked him quietly, whispering about his poor clothes or rough hands. One afternoon, as he was carrying coffee trays for a meeting, Tom and Jared, the very friends who used to mock him at the grocery store, walked into the building. They had been hired for delivery work. When they saw Alex in the billionaire's office tower, their jaws dropped. "What are you doing here?" Jared whispered in disbelief. Alex stood tall even as the coffee shook in his hands. "Working," he said simply and walked past them. For the first time he felt no shame, but the challenges kept coming. A week later, he was asked to speak during a meeting, to share notes he had taken. His voice trembled at first, but he forced himself to continue. Workers listened, some with curiosity, others with doubt. When he finished, silence filled the room, until Mr. Collins clapped once. "Good work, Alex. Confidence will grow with time." That single praise gave Alex strength. Still, there were nights when he returned home too tired to eat, collapsing on his bed with sore muscles and a spinning head. Hunger remained a familiar pain, but now it was joined by fatigue. He questioned himself often. "Do I belong here? Am I strong enough?" But every time he remembered the old man's grateful eyes and Mr. Collins's firm voice. "I cannot teach compassion. You already have that." It became his anchor. One evening, as the office emptied, Mr. Collins called Alex into his room. The city lights glowed outside the glass walls, painting the room in golden hues. "You've been here 2 weeks now," Mr. Collins said, his tone unreadable. "Tell me, how does it feel?" Alex swallowed. "Hard, confusing. Sometimes I feel like I don't belong. But I want to learn. I don't want to give up." A small smile tugged at Mr. Collins's lips. "Good. That is what I wanted to hear. The world doesn't reward those who quit when things get hard. It rewards those who endure." He stood, placing a hand on Alex's shoulder. "Remember, Alex, this is only the beginning. Every day will test you. Not your skills, not your knowledge, but your heart. Money can be earned. Power can be built. But character must be proven again and again." Alex nodded firmly. His chest felt tight, but in a good way. For the first time, he wasn't just surviving. He was growing. When he left that night, walking down the marble steps into the cool air, he whispered to himself, "I can do this." And though the road ahead promised more trials, Alex felt ready. Because he had already faced hunger, loneliness, and mockery. This new life was simply another test of character. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest of Alex's life. Each morning began before sunrise, when the streets were still quiet and the air cold. The black car arrived like clockwork, carrying him from his little house into the world of glass towers and polished shoes. And every evening it brought him back, tired, sore, but stronger than the day before. Inside the company, the tests never stopped. He filed reports until his fingers ached, took notes until his hand cramped, and carried stacks of papers taller than himself. He listened in meetings where powerful voices argued over millions of dollars, and though he understood little at first, slowly the language of business began to make sense. Words like profit, equity, and market no longer felt like a foreign tongue. But learning was only one part of the battle. The real challenge came from people. Some workers respected him, seeing his effort. Others mocked him, whispering about his patched clothes and poor background. They expected him to break, to give up and walk away. Yet every time Alex wanted to quit, he remembered the old man he had fed. He remembered Mr. Collins's words, "I cannot teach compassion. You already have that." That thought became his shield. One afternoon, Alex was tasked with organizing documents for a major deal. The workers gave him instructions quickly, almost carelessly, expecting him to fail. He spent hours studying the files, checking each line, refusing to let exhaustion win. When Mr. Collins reviewed the work later, his sharp eyes found no mistakes. He gave Alex a rare nod of approval. That small gesture filled Alex with pride. He walked out of the office that day taller, his shoulders no longer bent with doubt. At home, life slowly began to change. For years, his mother had struggled to pay rent, often borrowing money from neighbors. Now, with Alex's training allowance and Mr. Collins covering some expenses, she could finally rest a little easier. The electricity bill was paid on time. His sister no longer had to study by candlelight. There was food on the table more often, even if simple meals. One evening, as his mother placed a steaming bowl of rice and vegetables before him, tears filled her eyes. "Alex, you've given us hope again. For the first time in years, I feel like we're breathing." Her words struck him deeply. He realized this wasn't just about his future, it was about theirs. Every step he took forward pulled his family out of the shadows of poverty. But hope wasn't only felt at home. People in the neighborhood began noticing the change. The boy who once walked with worn shoes and an empty backpack was now seen stepping out of a black car each morning. Some neighbors whispered with envy, others with curiosity. One evening, as Alex walked back from a corner shop, Tom and Jared appeared. They had just finished their delivery shift, their uniforms stained with dust. "Well, look who it is," Jared sneered. "Mr. Big Shot," Tom folded his arms. "So working with the billionaire now. Must be nice, huh?" Alex looked at them calmly. Once their words would have cut him. Now he only felt pity. "It's not easy," he said simply. "Every day is a test. But I'm not giving up." For the first time, Tom had no comeback. His smirk faded, replaced by silence. Back at the company, Alex's work began drawing attention. A senior manager once dropped a folder of important contracts, scattering papers across the floor. Workers hesitated, too busy with their own tasks, but Alex dropped to his knees, gathering each page carefully. He even organized them in order before returning them. The manager, usually cold and strict, gave him a rare smile. Good instincts, boy. You notice what others ignore. Word spread quietly about the trainee who came from nothing but worked like he had everything to prove. Some began to respect him, others grew curious. A few even offered guidance, teaching him small tricks about efficiency and communication. Alex listened to all of it, his mind soaking in every lesson like dry earth drinks rain. Still, doubt often whispered in his heart. One night, as he sat at his desk reviewing notes, he thought, am I really meant for this world? Can someone like me truly belong here? The next morning, Mr. Collins called him into the office. The city stretched wide outside the glass walls, golden under the morning sun. You've been here long enough now, Mr. Collins said, his tone unreadable. Do you feel you belong? Alex hesitated, his throat dry. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm just pretending. Everyone here is smarter, richer, faster. Mr. Collins studied him for a long moment before speaking. Let me tell you something, Alex. Money builds walls. Power builds distance. But character breaks barriers. That is why you are here. Not because of what you lack, but because of what you carry inside. The words sank deep into Alex's heart. He realized then that belonging wasn't about wealth or clothes or perfect knowledge. It was about persistence and honesty. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Alex grew sharper, stronger, more confident. His notes in meetings became clearer, his filing faster, his communication smoother. Slowly, the boy who once carried grocery bags for coins was becoming a young man who could stand in a boardroom without trembling. At home, the changes continued. His sister came home one day waving a certificate. She had won a school competition. I did it, Alex, she shouted with joy. Their mother cried again, whispering thanks under her breath. For the first time in years, laughter returned to their little house. But with hope came new responsibility. Alex knew the higher he climbed, the more he would be tested. Whispers around the office spoke of bigger trials ahead, of projects that could either make him shine or break him completely. And though fear stirred quietly inside him, Alex was no longer the boy who doubted every step. He was the young man who had faced hunger and mockery, who had given his last sandwich away, and who had chosen kindness when the world gave him nothing. From humble beginnings, hope had taken root. And Alex was ready to fight for it, no matter how hard the road ahead became. The seasons had changed. The cold mornings were now warmer, and the days lasted longer. But what changed the most was not the weather, it was Alex. Months had passed since the day he gave away his only sandwich. Months since the knock on the door that changed everything. Now, he walked through the glass doors of Collins Enterprises every day with purpose in his step and quiet strength in his eyes. The boy who once feared the marble floors and fancy suits had grown into a young man who belonged. His clothes were still simple, his shoes still worn, but his posture had changed. Confidence was no longer something he faked, it lived in him now. But today was different. Alex could feel it the moment he stepped out of the car. The air buzzed with something unseen. Workers in the office were quieter, glancing at him more than usual. He walked past the reception and into the elevator, his heart starting to race for no clear reason. When he reached the top floor, Mr. Collins's assistant was waiting at the door. He wants to see you, she said softly, almost with a smile. Alex stepped inside. The office looked the same. The same tall windows, the same large desk, the same view of the city stretched like a painting. But today Mr. Collins was standing not behind his desk but near the window, his hands behind his back. Alex, he said without turning. Come in. Alex walked in, his heart pounding. Yes, sir? Mr. Collins finally turned. His expression was unreadable. He studied Alex like he was measuring something important. Do you know what day it is? Alex blinked. Thursday? Mr. Collins chuckled faintly. Yes, but it's more than that. Today marks exactly 1 year since the night you gave me that sandwich. Alex's breath caught. A year. So much had happened, yet it felt like yesterday. I remember it clearly, Mr. Collins continued. I sat on that cold sidewalk watching hundreds of people pass me like I didn't exist. Until you stopped. You didn't ask who I was or what I had. You just saw a hungry man and helped him. Alex stayed silent. Mr. Collins walked over, opened a drawer, and pulled out a thick envelope. He placed it on the desk. Inside is a full scholarship. You've been accepted into the best business school in the city. Full tuition, housing, everything covered. You start next semester. Alex's eyes widened. But Emma didn't apply. I applied for you, Mr. Collins interrupted gently. And I pulled the right strings. You've earned it. Tears welled in Alex's eyes, but he blinked them away. Sir, I don't know what to say. Say yes, Mr. Collins replied, smiling for real now. Because this is just the beginning. He sat down and folded his hands. And that's not all. Alex's heart jumped. Mr. Collins continued. I've also decided to name a new project after you. The Alex Initiative. It's a training program to find more young people with potential. Those who may not have money, but who have heart. You'll be the first to go through it fully, and one day I expect you to lead it. Alex was speechless. His chest felt like it might explode with emotion. But why me? He finally whispered. Because, Mr. Collins said softly, you reminded me what kindness looks like. You showed me that character matters more than wealth. You gave without expecting anything. That makes you richer than most men I know. Alex lowered his head, tears quietly falling. Not out of sadness, but gratitude. When Alex got home that night, he held the envelope in his hands like it was gold. His mother stood in the doorway as he told her everything. She didn't speak at first, just hugged him tightly, shaking with silent tears. His sister jumped with joy, shouting, I knew you'd make it. The neighbors watched from their windows again, but this time they didn't whisper with confusion. They whispered with awe. The next few weeks passed quickly. Alex gave notice at work, wrapped up his duties, and said goodbye to the desk that had become his training ground. Some of the same co-workers who once mocked him now shook his hand, clapping his back and wishing him well. Before his last day, Mr. Collins took him aside. The world outside is different, he warned. You'll meet people who won't believe your story. You'll face new doubts. But remember where you came from. Remember the boy who gave away his last bite even when he had nothing. I won't forget, Alex promised. The college campus was massive, bigger than anything he'd seen before. Students walked with laptops, books, and headphones, some dressed in designer clothes, others in uniforms. Alex felt nervous again, like on his first day at the company. But now he knew something he hadn't known back then. He belonged, not because of what he wore, but because of who he was. He studied hard, often late into the night, fueled by memories of empty plates and long walks. He joined clubs, made new friends, and slowly built a life he never thought possible. Years passed. Alex graduated with honors. His story was shared at the ceremony, and he was given a standing ovation by the entire hall. The scholarship boy, the trainee, the one who gave his last sandwich and ended up creating something bigger than himself. But his proudest moment came later, when he returned to Collins Enterprises, not as a trainee, not as a guest, but as a full-time manager of the Alex Initiative. He now stood where others had once doubted him, guiding new young talents who had grown up just like he had, in small houses, with big hearts and hungry dreams. One day, while walking through the training hall, he saw a young boy struggling to carry a box of documents. Alex smiled, walked over, and lifted half the load. You'll get stronger, he said gently. Just don't give up. The boy looked at him and asked, Sir, is it true? You were once poor too? Alex nodded. Yes, very poor, but someone believed in me, and more importantly, I believed in myself, the boy smiled. And just like that, the cycle of kindness continued. Back at home, Alex's family now lived in a better house. His mother no longer worked endless hours at the laundry shop. His sister was in college too, following in his footsteps. The weight that once crushed their small family had lifted, but despite all the success, Alex never changed. He still visited the corner where it all began. Sometimes he sat quietly there, watching people pass. He never saw the old man again, but in a way, he didn't need to. Because that one act, that one moment of kindness on a cold night, had not just fed a hungry stranger. It had changed a life, and that life was now changing others forever.